Okay, welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have PetVivo Holdings Inc. Trades on the NASDAQ under the symbol PETV and is positioned to exploit market segments with powerful reimagined biotech products. Please welcome its president and CEO, John Lai. Welcome back, John.
Thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we're traded on NASDAQ under the symbol PETV. There are forward-looking statements in this presentation, and actually this same presentation is on our website with one minor error on the first page. We have the year 2021. That's going to get corrected later. So we have developed a protein particle matrix that mimics cartilage and tissue. We have multiple applications with this technology, but the first application is used in the treatment of osteoarthritis in dogs and horses, and we will be adding the feline cat version probably within 6 months. So Spryng, with its OsteoCushion technology, is a veterinary device that mimics cartilage and tissue, and it's all natural. The particle proteins are actually collagen, elastin, heparin, which is the building blocks of articulating tissue. We are selling direct to veterinary doctors through our in-house sales team, and it basically helps drive revenues for the veterinary doctors as well as traffic, and we get better outcomes and a better cost advantage for the pet owner. We do not require FDA approval on the veterinary side of the market, because we have done quite a bit of clinical work on the human side of the market where they declared us as a device. We have a very strong IP portfolio, 9 US, 12 foreign patents, very seasoned management team, and an active board of directors. So the opportunity presented to us is the osteoarthritis market. It's in the United States, it's about 4.4 billion, growing north of 5% a year, very recession-proof. And what osteoarthritis is basically joint pain caused by the wearing away of cartilage. It affects about 14 million dogs in the United States and about 1 million horses. So as you wear away the cartilage, it's bone-on-bone contact, which causes pain and inflammation, and the situation gets worse over time. It doesn't get any better. So the current treatment solution is all focused on symptoms and not the root cause of the bone-on-bone contact, which, we're unique from the sense is that we're targeting that. So the standard treatment, or the gold standard treatment right now, is using NSAIDs. NSAIDs help, but they're very short-term oriented, and long-term use of NSAIDs have multiple problems of causing GI tract bleeding, liver, kidney problems, and it does nothing to slow down the process of degrading the cartilage. And I actually argue that it speeds up the process, because when you're masking the pain of the dog, they're going to run and jump in situations where they would not. So it tends to speed up the damaging and degrading. Also requires compliance of the consumer. Requires the person to give a pill once a day, if not twice a day. And the next line of treatment is steroids and hyaluronic acid injections, which is once again treating the symptoms. They're focusing on the pain, bringing a little bit of the inflammation down, lubricating the joint. It's very expensive, requires multiple injections a year, and it's slow acting. Stem cells, PRP, it requires harvesting of blood as well as other tissue harvesting. Once again, it's focused on symptoms, time sensitive, it's very expensive, and it has limited effects and requires, once again, compliance of the consumer to bring the dog back to the veterinary doctor for multiple treatments. We believe the optimal osteoarthritis treatment or solution is Spryng with OsteoCushion technology. So these particles are basically very lubricious. It's like a bunch of little sponges, and we have the veterinary doctor inject it into the joint or any articulating joint where it goes in and starts to form a scaffolding. The injection is called an interarticular injection, which veterinary doctors know how to use. It's pretty standard, and it doesn't require any specialized training. So in our multiple case studies, we have shown the product to last at least 12 months in the dog and horses, and we have seen it last well beyond that. The major advantage is that once you inject these particles or the spring solution, we seem to be able to allow the vet or the consumer to stop or minimizing the use of NSAIDs over a period of time, and therefore benefiting the dog or the dog. It's very effective, economical solution for treating osteoarthritis. So we sell them in 2 cc syringes. It's a pretty unique therapy in addressing the problem of causing joint pain and osteoarthritis. So the proteins are basically collagen, elastin, heparin, which are the building blocks of cartilage and tissue. And we've seen the process in race horses where, after horses run, they're required to draw blood and urine for testing, and our product does not show up there, so there's no risk of getting a disqualified horse or any regulatory issues. We have done 145 human patient study in the FDA with the FDA as a derma filler. So it's the same particles. So we went head to head against Restylane, which is a gold standard treatment, as a derma fill for the facial fold area. And we had very good success, as well as we tracked the human patients for 12 months. These particles were still in the body, and pretty much the majority of the consumers preferred our product to Restylane because it felt more natural. Once again, very strong IP portfolio, U.S. and domestic. So Spring, the mechanism of action is purely mechanical. It's not in any way biologic or pharmaceutical. Once we inject the particles, you can see on the image, the first one is the bone-on-bone contact I talked about that causes the pain and inflammation. The bottom slide shows after the particles have been injected, it starts to form the scaffolding, which is like injecting a bunch of very small sponges into the joint. Now, these particles are wet and lubricious, so every time the dog runs or jumps, it's actually moving these particles, keeping the joint cool by lubricating it, and also providing the protection of the bone-on-bone contact. Case study with Hope. Hope was a 9-month-old golden doodle that had a birth defect. Its rear hind leg was diagnosed with a hip defect, and the surgeon didn't want to operate because the bones weren't fully developed yet. We injected, or the vet injected with Spring, and over the next 3 weeks, the dog showed quite a bit of improvement. In most cases, you see instant results within 48 hours, but this was a long-term congenital defect where one leg was skinny and the other leg on the right side was very big from overuse. It started to get into balance, and the product actually has been in Hope for 7.5 years, where you could not tell that it ever had an issue. There's no limping or anything else. It had pretty much full functionability. Equine Success was one of the major ones, was Fender Bender, racehorse here in Minneapolis at a local racetrack called Canterbury. And the owner had claimed this racehorse in June of 2020 for $3,000, injected 4 different joints, and within a couple of weeks, Fender Bender went out on a race where he got moved up to a $7,500 claiming race, and it had a terrible start, stumbled out of the gate, gave a 10-length lead, but at the end of the race, it caught all the other horses and won the race. And that purse was actually $12,000. So Fender Bender, the owner is extremely happy with the use of Spring. And given all this time, the horse, one of the biggest advantages talking to the trainer is the horse did not need to be tapped to drain fluids prior to getting Spring. After every race, the horse would pretty much need to be tapped, as well as the recovery time. fender bender typically needed 2.5 weeks of rest before it could train for the next race. After spring, it was 2 to 3 days that it could start training. So it meant a lot more revenue for the owner. So there's a big, strong economic incentive to use our product over the current treatments out there. The competitive distinction or advantage that Spring has is outcome is focused on addressing the problem and not just the symptoms. Treatment is purely mechanical, doesn't rely on biologics or pharmacology, which has side effects. Price cost advantage, the ease of application is interarticular. You can inject or treat multiple joints at once. It's sold exclusively to the veterinary doctors. Therefore, they can get superior margins because, their margins of their pharmaceuticals or device has been squeezed so much by the major big box stores like Walmart, Walgreens. They're filling prescriptions at tremendous discounts to what the vet would. And we have treated over 100 dogs and horses successfully with Spring. So it's a unique solution from the standpoint, if you look at the treatment spectrum, we have advantages pretty much across the board. Ours is a single injection, minimally invasive, focus on addressing the root cause of the problem. If you look at all the treatments on right of us, it requires, it's focused on symptoms other than the joint replacement. And there's multiple side effects when you're using pharmaceutical or biologics, requires multiple visits to the vet. And from a cost standpoint, we have a advantage in the cost structure. And ours has been reimbursable by pet insurance. Basically, it's declared as a medical device, and most pet policies will give some form of reimbursement. And we have also found from a surgical standpoint, surgeons, when they do a joint replacement, they've been injecting our particles into that joint to stabilize the joint and allow for much faster rehab and recovery, as well as injecting the bilateral joint, because 80% of the bilateral joint after a joint replacement within the first 18 months to 2 years will require surgery because of the added stress of a joint replacement. So we feel there's tremendous opportunity in using it, one, as a prophylactic, as well as a multimodal type approach in treating different forms of joint afflictions as well as osteoarthritis. Production standpoint, we have created a production facility that meets one of the highest levels of human medical device, ISO 5, 7, and 8. We have done 1,000-unit batch runs, and actually beyond that, we're building up inventory. We have the ability to produce approximately 500,000 units a year of the Spring syringe, which equates to about $125 million top-line revenue. This facility can easily be duplicated in scale for about $200,000 in 120 days. We can double the production to 1 million units and top-line revenue of $250 million. We talked about the particles. They have multiple applications within the companion animal space. The first 5 products here do not require any FDA clearance. We can go right directly to marketing. It's the same particles, just different applications and uniqueness to the various treatment. Now, the one that's different is the mucosanal device. This is a drug delivery or an agent delivery. I shouldn't say drug, because we can deliver CBD, vitamins, nutritional supplements right into the bloodstream through the mucosanal membrane. And it's a wafer that we put in the gum or the rooftop of the mouth, and it'll deliver 5 to 10x the bioavailability. And what that means is CBD has very good success in calming down dogs that have a barking issue. And it typically takes 7 to 10 drops per dose, depending on the size of the dog. We can get the same effects pretty much using 1 drop into the wafer and putting it on the rooftop in the mouth. We can deliver it right into the bloodstream as fast as 5 minutes. So you get a much quicker delivery, much lower dose, which means less side effects. So we're we're very confident eventually we can roll this out probably within the next year into the market, and that can be a direct consumer product. The overview of the companion and animal market, U.S. pet spend in 2019 was $97.1 billion. In 2020, it was $103.6 billion. But the big thing is that the demographics are all in our favor. Less and less people are getting married, less and less people are having children. So the humanization of the pet as being part of the family is very strong. It's very recession-proof. We're growing north of 5% a year. And the fastest growing segment actually is pet care and products as the leading driver. About 30% of total pet spend is in that space. In 2019, it was about $29.3 billion. In 2020, it was $31.4 billion. Excuse me. 68% of households own a pet, which is 63.4 million dogs, and about 7.2 million horses, and 42.7 million cats. And as I stated, we're going to have a cat product out probably within 6 months. It's all a matter of timing of that product. Now, recent numbers have just come out with COVID that show now we're over 70% of households that own a pet. So there's definitely a large market. And keep in mind, all of our forecasts and everything is just based on dogs and horses and not cats. Typical metrics that you can see show how the humanization of their pets have been quite large in the last 10 years. So in 2012, the typical dollar amount that a pet owner was willing to spend before they stopped treatment for their dog was $1,700. In 2020, in just 8 years, it's $10,700, and that will continue. Pet insurance is growing. It's currently about 3.5% of the market. Pet owners have pet insurance. So in 2016, there was about 1.8 million pet owners that had pet insurance. In 2020, 3.45 million. That shows an annual growth rate of about 23.4. Now, we're really going to see this grow here in the next few years. We just saw a partnership with Trupanion and Chewy, where Chewy opened up their client base to sell pet insurance, and Lemonade, as well as Nationwide, have been pushing pet insurance. And that's a major tailwind, I believe, for us, because we're getting reimbursement as declaration of a medical device. So as that grows, the out-of-pocket costs of the consumers will be much less. The market is really ripe for effective therapies. If you look at the last 15 years, everyone has just focused on creating a better NSAID with less side effects and better efficacy. Or they're going with stem cells, showing that they can have good outcomes. They're very, much more expensive than ours, and it requires multiple treatments. Our management team, we have a very seasoned management team. Every one of us probably has over 30 years from an operational standpoint in human medical devices or other aspects of manufacturing. Our bios are on the website, so I'll leave more time for questions. Board of directors, very seasoned, understanding marketing, medical device, financial experts. Jim Martin, partner, senior partner at KPMG, JD, and CPA. The growth drivers will be expanding our sales force. Now that the year is over, a lot of the salespeople will be getting their year-end bonuses at the end of January, early February. We have identified quite a few salespeople with very deep Rolodex and years of experience that we will be bringing on board. We'll be engaging other distribution networks. We just recently announced a agreement with Vetco. Vetco is one of the largest membership service buying groups for veterinary doctors. So Spring is on their website, and we have been seeing orders come through the VetCove website. They have 13,000 members. So situations like that allows us to reach many vets at the same time is very advantageous as we continue to look at other channels that are similar. KOL adoptions, now that we have the production facility, we're building up inventory. We will allow our KOLs to start publishing papers and talking about the success they've been having. We had a very good trade show in Nashville at the American Equine Practitioner Association, I believe that's the term. We had 3 of the U.S. Olympic equine vets in our booth. They spent quite a bit of time talking to veterinary doctors because they were recognized by veterinary doctors in the equine space. And Dr. Tracy Turner, who's one of our advisory board members, has been using the product for 6 years. So he was really able to give detailed answers to vets. And we did quite well out of that show. I was very happy with the attendance as well as the milestones we wanted to achieve. Increased market awareness, more trade shows. We're just finishing up in Orlando at the VMX, which is the major trade show of the year. Audience or attendance was way down. They were anticipating, in the past, they get 16,000 people. I think they got 6,000, maybe 7,000 this year. So we'll be doing clinical education white papers to help adoption. We got the Colorado State study that's been delayed with the COVID. They had shut down the campus to outside people since August. Hopefully that will start up again. And we're focusing on getting other studies out with private groups that will not have that restrictive issue. We'll be expanding Spring to other indications such as cats, as well as eventually rolling the product back into the human side of the market. So we have a very large market opportunity, $4.4 billion, and growing at a very good clip. Increased humanization of companion animals, showing that the dollar spent of consumer will just continually increase. Spring, we feel, is the optimal solution for the management of osteoarthritis and other current joint afflictions over any other current treatment. Significant benefits by not having side effects or any of the other or compliance of consumers. Vet exclusive, enhances revenues and margins that will help in the adoption, as well as providing a very cost-effective solution for pet owners. With the capital we raised in August to go on NASDAQ, the principal focus of the company is to drive sales and marketing, and we have been spending to get on. We've been putting up nice commercials in CNN, CNBC, Fox Business, magazines for dogs and horses, and we have a very strong IP portfolio, foreign and U.S. That concludes the formal portion. I'll open it up to questions.
Perfect. Thank you, John. We do have some questions for you. Let's start off with Tom W. says, congratulations on the recent distribution agreement. Can you give us an idea of what that will do for your numbers and what percentage of your sales will that represent?
It just started, so it's very difficult to tell, but what it did is it opened up a lot of vets that our salespeople would have had to call on. So it was something we didn't have in our modeling. We were hopefully getting it. So I feel very good about the relationship because it is one of the largest groups of veterinary buying groups.
Great. Jeff Osborne wants to know, what other products are you working on besides your core product right now?
Well, we talked about the wafer of delivering CBD nutritional products and eventually, pharmaceuticals, because that was the initial funded work by NIH and DOD when we did early studies for them way back when we got all the grant money. So we have a lot of good data there. We feel that's a product that doesn't require any FDA work if we're doing nutritional supplement products for the animals and then eventually getting into the humans.
Great. Jamie Sherman wants to know how your network of veterinarians is growing.
They're growing nicely from the trade show. I believe I had always talked about early on, I thought 80% of the vets would be large animal vets, 75 to 80, and that's what we're seeing because the large animal vets are sitting in a situation where they inject a horse, and most of them are performance situations. They're jumpers, they're rodeo riders, they're race horses, so they see the results right away. The small animal vets, they inject the dog comes back 6 months later, and then they see, oh wow, this is still working nicely. So the sales lead time and repeat orders is much longer.
Eric Hawkins wants to know, how far away are you from treatment on humans?
I would say within 18 months, we'll file with the FDA for usage.
Fantastic. Chuck Powell wants to know, for those who don't have insurance, how much is the cost of the procedure?
So it ranges in regions, but the injection, the vets usually charge anywhere from $400 to $700 per joint. And when you look at the spectrum of treatment, it's much lower than any of the other treatment processes.
Another question about insurance. Sabrina Hart wants to know, what percentage of your procedures are paid by insurance?
Because it's not a big ticket item, we're seeing probably, I would say 90% are paid individually, and 10% that have insurance are getting paid by it. So everyone that's been filed for reimbursement, they have gotten reimbursement.
Great. Christy Stewart wants to know, how does the revenue model work? And do you sell directly to the vets and distributors?
We sell directly to the vets. Now the distributors have their distribution agreement, and they sell to their existing base of veterinary doctors because we're increasing our sales force. We're looking to add 8 additional salespeople over the next 12 months in-house.
Fantastic. Do you have any closing remarks, John?
No, we're pretty excited to get the season going and hope the Omicron COVID calms down so we can attend all these trade shows with much better crowds and being able to present the product.
I hope the same thing. Well, you're doing great work over there. And as a dog and pet lover myself, congratulations. And we look forward to you joining us again for more future updates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, everyone, stay with us. We've got another exciting presentation coming up next. We'll be right back on.